I moved into my first house in early October, a small, older place in a quiet cul-de-sac outside of Des Moines. Perfect timing, I thought. I'd get settled in before winter and enjoy my first Halloween handing out candy in an actual neighborhood instead of an apartment complex. The street had maybe 10 houses, most owned by older couples. Everyone waved and it felt safe. I was extremely happy to be in a new house and was glad all my neighbors seemed friendly, except for the house at the very end of the street. The place looked abandoned. No decorations, overgrown yard, blinds always drawn. When I asked my next door neighbor about it, she just said, "Old guy lives there and he keeps to himself." I never thought twice about it after that. Halloween night rolled around, and the whole street came alive. Kids in costumes running up and down the sidewalks, parents chatting at the end of driveways, lights glowing orange in almost every window. I had a great setup, bowl of candy, porch light on, horror movie playing in the background. By around 8:30, the crowd had thinned out. I was about to call it a night when I noticed a little girl standing at the edge of my yard. She was maybe 8 years old, wearing a fairy costume. She was also alone. My initial thought was, what was she doing out here all alone at this point in the night? It was already dark out. She kept glancing down toward the dark house at the end of the street, and then back at me. "Are you okay?" I asked. "That man said he has better candy." I frowned, and asked her which man. She pointed down the street. The house at the end that had no lights on, no porch decorations, nothing. "Did you go up there?" I asked her. She shook her head and said that he was standing by the mailbox. He said that I should come inside for chocolate bars. That got my stomach tight when she said this. "Okay, where are your parents?" She pointed toward the corner, where a couple was talking with another group. I walked her over and told them what she had said. They looked confused at first, then angry, and then scared. The dad started down the street immediately. I followed behind just to make sure that everything was fine. By the time we reached the last house, the street was quiet again. No one was by the mailbox, no porch light either. The dad knocked on the door. There was no response. He knocked a little bit harder, and still nothing. Finally, he cupped his hands to the window and looked inside. "Jesus," he muttered. I stepped up next to him. The living room looked like a hoarder's house. Piles of newspapers, clothes, trash bags. And taped to the inside of the window was a sign written in marker, "No more visitors," in all caps. We didn't see anyone inside, but the air felt wrong. The kind of wrong your instincts notice before your brain does. We called the cops, and they came about 20 minutes later, did a knock and talk, and then went inside when no one answered. One of the officers came out a few minutes later looking pale. Apparently, the old guy hadn't been seen in weeks. They found him inside, dead. Natural causes, probably. But here's the thing. The front door had been unlocked. There were candy wrappers all over the coffee table, and a folding chair set up near the window facing the street. Next to the chair was a pile of brand new candy bars, full-size ones, still in the grocery bag. The receipt was dated the day before Halloween. They said it looked like he'd been sitting there for a while before he died. But what sticks with me is that the girl said she talked to him that night, and the cops said he'd been dead for at least a week. I don't know who or what she saw. My best guess is someone had gotten in and was trying to lure unsuspecting kids inside, and then left once we had approached the door. I still live in the same house, and I'm looking forward to Halloween again this year, although this is an experience that I won't soon forget. Last Halloween, my girlfriend and I went to one of those family farm pumpkin patches about an hour out of town. We thought it would be fun to go to one on Halloween night. The pumpkin patch was massive. It really looked like they put a lot of money into it. It was late, near closing, and most people had left by this point. The workers were packing up, and we were still in the maze trying to find the exit. It was a lot bigger and more difficult than either of us had expected. We kept hearing laughing from deeper in the corn. Kids, maybe teenagers, but it sounded strange. Not playful, more mocking. It seemed like we were constantly making wrong turn after wrong turn to make things worse. I shouted, "Hey, it's closing. You guys lost too?" Then one of the laughs came from behind us. We turned around. Nothing but rows of corn in the wind. My girlfriend grabbed my arm. "Let's just cut through," she said. I could tell she was starting to freak out at this point, and I can't lie, I was on edge too. I really wasn't 100% sure where we were and which direction was back toward the entrance. We decided to push through the stalks, and we came out near the back fence. Behind it were a bunch of broken down tractors and some old trailers, clearly not meant for visitors, possibly someone else's property entirely. I noticed between two of the trailers, a man was standing in overalls. No mask, no costume, he was just staring at us. He smiled, slowly. "You're not supposed to be back here," he said. "Yeah, sorry, we just got lost," I said. He didn't blink, he just kept smiling like he was waiting for something. Then, from inside one of the trailers, I swear, I heard a child's voice giggle. My girlfriend squeezed my hand so tight I thought she'd break it. We immediately turned around and left through the gap in the fence without saying another word. We somehow finally managed to make it back up to the front. When we told the guy at the front gate, he looked confused. "There's no one working in that area," he said. "No one's even supposed to be back there." We left shortly after that. I don't know if he went to investigate or if anything else happened after we left. The next morning, the local news ran a story. A child went missing after visiting the same pumpkin patch that night. They were last seen entering the corn maze around 8 p.m. We were there at 8:10. I was in college the first time I agreed to house sit over Halloween weekend. A family from my part-time job, the Langleys, were going out of town for their anniversary and needed someone to feed their dog, bring in the mail, and just overall keep an eye on the place. "Easy money," Mr. Langley said. They had one of those big suburban houses with a security system, Ring cameras, and a fenced backyard. He showed me the alarm code, the backdoor key, and how to reset the Wi-Fi if it glitched. Their only rule was simple: don't open the door for anyone after dark, even if they say they know us. He said it jokingly, but his wife didn't laugh. The first night was quiet. I watched movies, took the dog out, and scrolled my phone until about midnight. Before bed, I walked around locking up, just out of habit. Everything seemed fine until I got to the back door. The key was still in the lock, on the outside. I knew I hadn't left it there. I went cold, turned on every light, and walked through the house with the dog beside me. But nothing looked disturbed. I told myself Mr. Langley must have done it by accident earlier. Still, I couldn't shake that unease for whatever reason. The next day was Halloween. The Langley's neighborhood did trick-or-treating, as expected, so by dusk, the street was full of kids and parents. I stayed inside with the lights off. I wasn't about to explain to every 7-year-old why a random college kid was at their neighbor's house. Around 9, the doorbell rang. I ignored it. Then it rang again, long and slow this time. I figured maybe it was a straggler or some teen playing ding-dong ditch. I checked the Ring camera on my phone since Mr. Langley had given me access to it. There was someone standing at the door. Not a kid, but an adult in a mask. One of those plain white plastic ones you get at craft stores. No costume, just a dark hoodie. They weren't moving, just standing there facing the camera. Then they tilted their head, like they could see me through the lens. It looked like a scene straight from The Purge. After about 30 seconds, they turned and walked away. I watched them on the camera feed as they crossed the street, not towards another house, but towards the woods behind the neighborhood. It was beyond weird, to say the least. I was just starting to relax when I heard the dog growl, low and steady. He was standing at the sliding glass door, staring into the dark yard. I turned off the volume on the TV, trying to listen. I couldn't hear anything or see any movement. Then, out of nowhere, a tap on the glass. Soft, so soft that I almost didn't hear it at first. Then 2 quick knocks. I froze, looked up. Someone was standing just beyond the reflection of the room's light. The mask. It was the only thing I could see. They leaned closer to the glass, fogging it with their breath, and traced something into the condensation with their finger. Then they walked off into the yard. I couldn't quite tell what they had written, but either way, I grabbed the dog and locked myself in the bathroom. I called the police, with my heart slamming in my chest. They came about 15 minutes later, looked around, and didn't find anyone. They said it was probably some neighborhood prankster, and left. I wasn't really satisfied with their search, but what else could I do at that point? Luckily, nothing else happened the rest of the night. The next morning, when I let the dog out, there were footprints in the mud under the back window. They looked of considerable size. When the Langleys got home Sunday night, I told them everything. They didn't look surprised. Mr. Langley sighed and said it happens sometimes, always around Halloween. He then handed me an envelope of cash and said, "Thanks for sticking it out." As I was leaving, I asked if they'd ever found out who it was. He said no. The police think it's possibly someone who used to live here, a squatter maybe, or possibly someone from the neighborhood who has a thing for pranks. He seemed too casual about it, like it was a regular thing, but I was genuinely terrified. My friend Tyler throws a Halloween party every year. It's a big deal. DJ, costumes, lights, fog machine, the works. I honestly don't know how he pulls it off, but it's always a great time. This year was supposed to be his best one yet. There were about 30 of us, mostly people from work, some old high school friends, and a few neighbors. Everyone was drinking, dancing, and overall just having a great time. Around midnight, someone suggested a group photo. By that point, everyone had been drinking for a while. Tyler set up his phone on a tripod by the snack table. Everyone piled in, and he hit the timer. We took a few photos, and everyone seemed to be satisfied. An hour later, the party was starting to wind down. I went into the kitchen to grab another drink, and Tyler was standing there, looking confused. "What's wrong?" I asked. He turned his phone towards me. It was the photo we'd taken earlier. Everyone smiling, arms around each other. Except, in the background, by the sliding glass door, there was someone else. A man, tall, face covered by a white mask. No one had noticed him. "Is that someone's costume?" I asked. Tyler shook his head. "Nobody's wearing that, look." He flipped through his camera roll. The guy was in 3 other pictures, always in the background. In one, just half his face. In another, standing closer to the glass. We went to check the door. It was locked. He went to close the curtains as well. Right after, we heard something upstairs. A floorboard creaked directly above us. Tyler grabbed the kitchen knife. He slowly began making his way to the stairs, trying not to catch the attention of anyone else at the party. He started making his way up the stairs. I followed close behind him, heart pounding. I think Tyler and I were the only ones who'd heard the creaking noise above us. No one else seemed to notice or think it was weird that we were going upstairs. The sound came again, slow steps, like someone pacing around. When we reached the landing at the top, the noise stopped. We opened and searched every room. Nothing. I was starting to wonder at that point if we were hearing things or if we were just being paranoid, but Tyler swore that what we heard was real. We came back downstairs and just tried to ignore it. The party was basically over at this point. After the last of the guests left, I told him I would stay the night just in case. I could tell he was still concerned, and he wasn't sure if that person was still on his property or not. We somehow managed to get some sleep, and woke up the next day with nothing happening overnight, fortunately. I went home later in the day and assumed it was over. In my mind, I chalked it up to some kid playing around on Halloween night. But 2 days later, Tyler sent me the photo again, zoomed in with the caption, "Look closely in the top corner." Behind the man in the mask, just barely visible through the glass, the reflection of another camera. Someone was taking pictures of us from outside.